segue to our next topic, staying on that power term. Draymond Green called out the double standards in the NBA.
It's the treatment of players in this league. To watch Andre Drummond before the game sit on the sideline, then go to the bat, and then come out in street clothes because a team is going to trade him is bull. Because when James Harden asked for a trade and essentially dogged it, I don't think there was no surprise or there's no one's going to fight back that James was dogging it his last days in Houston. But he was castrated for wanting to go to a different team, and everybody destroyed that man. And yet a team can come out and say, oh, we want to trade a guy, and then that guy is to go sit. And if he doesn't stay professional, then he's a cancer, and he's not good in someone's locker room, and he's the issue.
Does Draymond Green have a point? And what I meant by power in this topic is that obviously we all know about player empowerment, and obviously the way how organizations run their franchise. Zach, talk to me. What do you think about Draymond Green calling out double standards, and obviously LeBron James last night co-signing what Draymond Green had to say?
Yeah, I actually think that Draymond brought up a really good point in this sense, is that I don't understand why we sit here and let coaches at any level, whether it's the NBA or college, just jump to the next job. I'll give you the perfect example, right? In college basketball, it's probably my favorite sport. In the mid-major ranks, if you win your league and if you make a run in March Madness, if you're the head coach of Loyola Chicago, if you're the head coach of UMBC, any one of those schools, you are going to go to whatever Power 6 school opens up. Literally any school will hire you for a lot more money. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but the NCAA is a perfect example of an entity that just is saying like, oh, our coaches are leaders of young men. Meanwhile, they're just out here jumping for a job because they want more money. And I think where Draymond has a point is that is happening in the NBA too, when it comes to the people other than players, when it comes to coaches, when it comes to general managers and them being criticized or complimented. And I think when you look at Draymond, all he's saying is if coaches are going to be out here just looking for the next job and not giving 100% for the team, why should players be out here criticized for voicing their same frustration? If coaches are out here signing a 5-year contract, and if players are out here signing a 5-year contract, why is it that if a coach wants to leave, everyone's like, oh, okay, you could just, go to a new level, like fine, no big deal. But if Draymond or another player wants to leave, he gets flipped for it.
There's a lot of dynamics that we can go into with this topic in itself. Obviously, when you talked about college basketball, you opened up a whole nother branch that we can definitely dive into at some point, because this is a very broad topic. When you talk about sports and player empowerment and trying to take control of your destiny, the one thing I would say is that I do agree with Draymond in the side of perception. The world, I'm not trying to get too deep philosophical here, but we all know the art of perception. Me and you could be the same person, but it's how I perceive you to be. We could think alike, but it's how I'm perceiving you to be. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's how I'm going to think about you. With the players, when you got a lot of players that want to move and they like, listen, this is not the right situation, they get perceived as, all right, he just wants to quit. Whereas where you talk about an organization, when they're ready to move on from somebody a la Andre Drummond, yeah, you're going to be in street clothes and you're going to be on the bench in street clothes because we looking to trade you by the deadline, by the NBA deadline. So it's all about the perception. People with power, they're not looked at as the same way as a player with less power. When you're powerful, you're looked at differently compared to when you don't have power. So I do agree in that sense. But also, my problem that I have, and I guess you can call this the selfish fan in myself as a basketball fan, is that I don't have a problem with guys saying I want out. I definitely been in situations in my life with school where I transferred high school, college, and middle school, and it worked out better for me in the long run, right? But I just don't like the players saying I want to go to the Lakers in Miami only. Now that's where we have a problem with myself as a fan, because I think that you should want to compete. At the end of the day, I don't think the NBA is a job. it shouldn't be treated as a job because you all getting millions for it. I'm pretty sure in a pandemic, everybody would want that job. So I don't have a problem with player movement. Is more of where the players is going to. The situations that they're going to. When you try to say, oh, LeBron James is the GOAT because he decided to play with Wade. So, all right, I'm looking at LeBron James as the GOAT. Perception, ladies and gentlemen, perception. So I think perception is a big thing here. But I do agree with Draymond in the sense that guys are looking at the owners a different way because they're allowed to do all this. But at the end of the day, Draymond Green, I got to reiterate this to you, brother. They the ones with the power. And the ones with the power get to create the perception that you want to change.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Perception and power. Those are the two biggest words, I think, in this conversation. And in an era of player empowerment, an era where players, especially in the NBA, let's face it, especially considering what happened with James Harden just wanting out, I think the NBA especially is starting to trend towards that kind of league, and I'm curious to see where it goes going forward because I guarantee you, there are going to be plenty of players like LeBron backing up Draymond and what he wanted to say because when you look at the Cavs and them holding out Drummond, you look at the Pistons and what they're doing with Griffin, like as a player, I want to play basketball, like I get it.
And another thing too, even though like I'm kind of, looking at all sides of the spectrum, I'm not disagreeing with Draymond. I'm agreeing partially, a good proportional amount with Draymond Green's statement. Because I do think it's not fair. It's a bad look when you're telling somebody you can't play. Oh yeah, be in street clothes because we're looking to trade you. So we don't want you to get hurt so you can ruin your stock. You want to play out. You want to play the ball. That's why you sign up for the sport. It's to play. But at the same time, look at the other side. Football, you have no power at all. So the NBA, you do to some degree have a little bit more power than your football counterparts. John Watson asked for a trade like a couple days ago, a couple weeks ago, a month now, 2 months now. And people are looking at him like there's something wrong with him. And we just touched on how bad of an organization the Texans are. And he wants out of there. And some of these guys, these old vets, is giving him backlash. So at the end of the day, I do believe that NBA players have a little bit more power than other entities, other sports, organizations.
Yeah, also not to mention, dude, when you're comparing the NBA and the NFL, dude, like the NBA has guaranteed contracts, the NFL does not. So I don't know if that, changes anyone's opinion on this topic at all.
These situations of Harrison Barnes getting pulled off the bench, DeMarcus Cousins finding out that he's traded in an interview after the All-Star game, and we continue to let this happen. But I got fined for stating my opinion of what I thought should happen with another player. But teams can come out and continue to say, oh, we're trading guys, we're not playing you. And yet we're to stay professional.